Hi, Amigas!
How's everyone doing today?
Awesome.
Doing good.
So today we're going to be going over pages, what, Vero?
142 to 198, I believe. We're going to be covering like chapter 12, almost towards the end of chapter 15.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's getting so good. I mean, we're so close to the end that I just want to finish it.
I know. I was looking at the
16.
last pages and I was like, oh my God, we're like there already.
Yeah.
Should we just finish?
I think a lot of our amigas
That's
are
why
done.
a lot of them finished, because it just gets so intense towards the middle end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So last time we left off on the fact that she finally blew up and started spiraling out of control. You know, the depression and anxiety hit while being in college.
Debt.
Her debt. It's crazy because she's right. I never had any, so they make you, when you go to school, when I went to grad school, they have you do like an online training on what the loans are. But it's so much like Babel, right? Because imagine trying to get a loan and understanding all the rules of a loan at 18.
Yeah.
And it's really intense because you need the money to go to school.
So
and
you're
a lot
just
of times,
going to do anything.
and a lot of times people tell you, don't worry about the money. It'll be fine, But no one really teaches you about that. And so I know for my loans, I'm just like, oh my God, I just realized how much I owe. And
make you think Sally Mae's your friend.
it's a mess. And so, she starts really feeling that loneliness and that pain of, the fact that she spent so many years trying to be perfect and she kind of no longer is, right? She starts partying, she starts drinking.
Working at the nightclubs.
Oh, yeah. Trying to go in as a bartender, and they're like, nope, you're a pretty face. You're going to be a waitress.
Yeah, and all of that just continued to pile up until she broke and she started cutting herself.
Mm-hmm. And she had been doing it for a while, she says.
Mm-hmm. She did it for a while, and, cutting is pretty interesting because it's scary, but for the most part, it's not an attempt to commit suicide.
It's only the feelings, right? The feeling that they get out of it?
Yeah, so there's like a relief. I think she describes it.
Yeah. 151, page 151. She said it herself. She says, at 14, I'd somehow been able to stuff down much of what I was feeling. But as I got into my 20s, that decade, when you're feeling out everything, that the gaping hole at my life center had become impossible to disregard. It's like crazy. I mean, she hold it all together for so long at such a young age.
And the thing with the cutting is it's like a relief in the fact that you're in so much pain internally that you just want to let it out. And feeling the physical pain is just easier. It also is like a chemical thing where when you're hurt, your body will release a lot of endorphins and chemicals to protect you. So there's kind of this relief that happens even on more of a neural level where she feels like, okay, my body's releasing. And then seeing the blood is kind of like a rush as well.
Yeah, she actually goes into detail on that, and I highlighted that stuff. Or even when she explains depression on 153, she said, it's not the thing about depression. It's not a topic for breezy, polite dinner conversations. It's easier to tell someone I have a headache or even I have cancer than it is to say, the bottom has fallen out of my life. You turn into this helpless mute, wandering aimlessly through a wilderness in search of water, with no ability to scream out that you're dying of thirst.
Yeah. Depression is not like sadness. It's not how you feel after cutting things off with a lover or losing a job. So the way I describe depression to people is sadness is a regular, normal feeling that all humans have, right? Depression, and you'll hear it all the time, right? Why are you depressed? You have nothing to be depressed about.
Yeah.
It's true. A lot of times
easily
it's true.
just get over it.
Yeah, and the thing
Snap out of
is what I tell people is if you tell me you have depression and I ask you why, and you say, I have no clue why I'm sad, that's depression. When you tell me I'm sad because A, B, and C happened to me, there's a cause and an effect, so it makes sense. Okay, you're sad. That's a normal human behavior. But when you're sad and you can't explain why and you have no reason to be why, and I mean, she has reasons, but if you think about it, she's now 18, 19, right? She has her own living situation. She's not the helpless child anymore, right? And so she's at a point, and I tell people, sometimes when you get to a point in your life where it's actually more stable, that's when your mind and your body feel comfortable crashing. So that's when the depression and anxiety comes up, because your life is better and because your brain is like, okay, we can break now. And that's kind of what happened to her.
And that's where it jumps into her wanting to go to the rooftop of the building, right?
But even before that,
Taking it a little further than just cutting.
But even before that, you know how she gravitates towards Brian.
Yeah, that boyfriend.
So on page 154, it says, he had temporarily restored my senses, because when you spiral into desolation, you're no longer rational. In fact, you already feel dead. The suicide act is mere the formality. So he kind of became her safety, which is what children do with their parents, right? You're hurt, you're scared, you go with your mom and your dad. And for her, it became Brian. And, as she spiraled, she went to him to stabilize her and to kind of calm her down. And yeah, it gets to that point.
I mean, he was like the safety blanket, you could say, but they
Yeah.
still weren't healthy as a relationship, right?
Right. But I mean, you can't really have a healthy relationship when you have a person in the relationship that has these issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, y no tiene mucho que decir de él. She doesn't really get into detail. Like, I kind of wish she talked more about what happened to Brian, because I hope
Or
she
just
looks
who
back
he
now.
was.
Right. And I hope she looks back now after her book. And
Well, I think at the end, when we're getting closer to the end of the chapter, she says he wasn't a bad guy. He was good to me, It's just, it was time for us to end. And it's sad because, depression right now is so prevalent. Now we've seen it in both of our books,
Yeah.
right?
And we're seeing it in younger kids.
or from our own experiences.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. I think, yeah, and it's sad. And for her, I mean, she didn't have anyone there except Brian, who knew she was cutting. Because, I have parents come in with their kids, and their kids are cutting, and they're so scared. And it's like, well, they're not taking their life. They're just finding a way to cope. And it's not healthy, but it's a way to cope.
Oh, man, that's
so
tough.
But the balcony thing was crazy. I think that was like what brought her to go get help.
Well, it just it kind of really asked the question for her. Like, is this really what you want to do?
It's crazy, too, because it put me to think. I mean, I've never had any of these thoughts or gone through it. But as she's in the moment, like, she's just ready to do it. And she kind of just blacks out, wakes up, and she's, like, scared as shit. Like, fuck, where am I? Like, what was I doing?
do?
Yeah. And then she gets so scared that she almost falls off and is really like, oh, my God, I almost ended my life. So it's almost like they black out while they're doing it, right? Like they're not.
Yeah, well, so it's like this sense where you're trying to find, it's like she says, you're already dead inside. And so it's kind of like an out-of-body experience where you're there, but you're not there. And I always tell people suicide is just biologically goes against human nature, right? Because the one thing humans were born to do is survive. So when you take your own life, you're going against that biological need to survive. And most situations when someone tries to commit suicide, the reason why they don't actually do it, or the reason why it doesn't go through, is because that last second, the body will resist it. I tell people, you have people that'll be like, okay, I'm going to do it with a gun. Right when they're pulling the trigger, their own body will move. And we get brain injuries that way. So it doesn't go through. In her case, it's like that last minute when she did go and fall, it was like, oh shit, what did I just do? And her body grabbed on, right? It's not even a thinking thing. It's kind of like you leave your body in that moment, and you're just your body will go into survival.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. Chapter 12 was pretty much in detail about that.
Her anxiety,
Her
depression,
anxiety,
and
depression.
suicidal. Then we
Let's see.
jump into her changing, or no, she's working and just, I mean, almost no time for school, and it's kind of on the back burner.
Yeah, I can't
Working a
believe how
lot, not even sleeping.
she was so dedicated to her school, and then just alone gave her anxiety, and she stopped. Her grades were bad.
Well, the bad thing was she stopped taking her medication.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. She stopped that too.
That too.
And it's really hard when you have ADHD to concentrate in a college class.
Well, she's
But the good thing she started
she's,
saying-
She has dyslexia, but the
Dyslexia,
medication is
right?
not for dyslexia.
Yeah.
So with
She starts-
dyslexia, you learn to read and you learn to do everything. It's just you learn little tricks. But with the ADHD, that's really hard. Which acting is a great job for someone with ADHD.
Why is that?
Because you have a lot of hyperactivity.
Oh, okay.
And she wanted to be a lawyer. That's really hard for someone with ADHD.
Yeah, she's found it boring.
Because they have to sit still for long hours, and that's hard for them.
Yeah, so she started seeing her therapist, Lorraine,
Lorraine. Yeah, that's
which
her
is
name.
almost like her mom, BFF.
I loved it. I'm like listening to her and Lorraine. I'm like, oh, that's me and my patients.
Yeah, she sounds like an awesome therapist.
Yeah. And at one point, she tells her that she would like to get her on medication for anxiety, right? But she says, I don't want to become hooked. I just want to try to detox or something like that.
And I mean, a lot of people are resistant to anti-anxiety, anti-depression medication. And I used to think no, you shouldn't do meds. But obviously you become a therapist and you realize the power of being on medication. And yeah, I don't think it's the first call to action. Like if you can do therapy and, go through with your
Meditation, other
therapy,
things.
then if your therapy can help you through it, then yeah. However, I don't demonize medication. I feel like if you can't get through therapy, because I have patients that I'm like, you have to do this, this, and this, the way she tells her, you have to practice affirmations, you have to do this. And there's people that they can't, they physically can't. Depression and anxiety take over your body. It's not just your mind. And so they can't get out of bed. It's not that they don't want to. It's not that. It's just they can't. And so sometimes using the medication. And she says in a section, she said that, which I liked because I just said this to a patient the other day, that people think that the medication is the fix, but it's not. The medication is actually to get you to be able to do therapy. Yeah. So it's not.
So you're clear-minded.
Yeah. So that you can do the things they ask you to do in therapy, so that you have the energy to do the affirmations and to do the work. But it's not the answer. It doesn't fix it. It kind of just stabilizes.
Well, so right after that, she starts being a waitress at a nightclub, and she meets her friend Luciana.
Oh, yeah. I thought Luciana was pretty cool.
Yeah.
She's a student pursuing a nursing career.
She's from Brazil. She describes her with a J-Lo booty and a long ass hair to her waist.
Mm.
So she's a friend that she mentioned that came at a
Have
right
you guys
time.
ever been waitresses?
No.
when you were
Yeah, I
younger?
hated it.
They are catty, right? She talks about how there's fights and over
for
tips and stuff like that.
Or even hours and
Yeah, well, in
schedules.
restaurants, I remember because all our family works in restaurants, and they're always fighting over tables and shit.
I mean, I worked in the restaurant, but in the backside, I was the cook, the chef, and just hearing them go off, we're just like, okay, that's none of our business. I'm glad I'm not there, not our department.
And she had her birthday, too. She turned 22,
22?
yeah.
Oh my God. At time when she mentioned that she was 22, I completely forgot. I was like, oh my God, I would have thought she would have been older going through all of that shit. She's gone through so much.
Yeah.
That I forgot. I was like, wow, she's only just turned 22 and all this has happened.
Listening to her partying nights and her being up and no sleep. We went through that, but we were just doing it because we were just being wild and partying, not to cover it up.
For me, it was like I went to school, I worked, I had my son. Like going out dancing, we weren't the wasted type. Like we wouldn't go out and get wasted. We'd go out and just dance all night. Remember?
I mean, we'd have hangovers sometimes.
I mean, we'd have yeah. I think I
We'd
drank.
have a responsible one once in a while.
Yeah.
Somebody would have a good night.
Yeah.
But for me, it was more about like that was my self-care. Like
It was to have a good time, not like Nady said, not to cover something.
Cover something up.
Yeah,
or, you know.
But a lot of times people are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where like addiction comes in.
Yep.
So
All the drama too at work.
she starts right after, continue to see Lorraine. And I've highlighted this one part on page 165. I like where she starts explaining that she was with Lorraine, that her ideas began to stick, and she was right. Most of my moves had been based on the fact that I was scared out of my mind. What if I did everything in my power to become success only to fail miserably? What if I pursued a career in entertainment and got booed off the stage? What if people didn't like me in many ways? I'd been tripping myself up so that I'd never have to answer those questions. It's interesting what you start noticing about yourself when you pay close attention. You're allowing fear to block your greatness. Lorraine often reminded me, you've got to change your mindset. She had a point. Fear is what kept me from applying to a conservatory, and fear was dodging the dream I claimed to no longer want. Hashtag self-sabotage.
I think it's hard. I mean, I think being a therapist helps for me because I catch myself. Like,
You've learned stuff for yourself.
yeah, like, well, that one, self-sabotage, right? Like, when I wanted to open my own practice, I was like, am I really going to do this? Like, am I going to do this? Like, I'm so new in the field and, and
Second think everything.
yeah, I was just like, can I really take this chance? Like, I'm going to be left with like all these bills, or even like public speaking, like whenever I have to do something like that, I'm like, do people really need to hear what I have to say? Like, does it really matter? Like, And it is self-sabotage. It's like this belief, like, can I really get that far? Should I even try? But I can remind myself of, you're doing it.
Right. And then, I mean, I sometimes have put myself to think, and people have told me, like, you always give good advice, and sometimes you don't take it. And I put myself to think, like, what would I be telling this person if I'd be hearing them what I'm telling myself? It's like, no, like, just go and do it. What are you going to lose from trying to do it and failing? Like, just do it again in a different way. So it's like, okay, stop negative talking to yourself, Vero. Yeah.
Stop it, Vero. Say some affirmations.
But it's true. I mean, I think we all do it. Like,
Yeah, we do.
We hold ourselves back more than anyone else. And I think for her, like even like us doing this podcast or starting our book club, right? It's like, is it for money? Is this going to be our career? Like, what are we doing? And like she says, don't share your dreams with everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Careful who you
how
say.
many people have told us, like, why are you even doing this? Like, no one cares what you have to say. Like, and it's like,
Yeah, we've heard it all.
I mean, at times it hasn't made sense to us, but we're just rolling with it and having fun with it, because in the end, that's how it started.
Because it feels good.
Yeah.
That's why it started.
but I think, like, when you go, like, she wants to do acting, when you go to a more conservative career path, right? Like, I'm going to go to school and then I'm going to have this career. No one bashes you, But you want to do something alternative, like starting a podcast or, building a support group with women or acting. Everyone's like, well, are you going to make money? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And it's like, no, sometimes you just want to do something for fun because it's your passion.
Yeah.
And it's
Like nonprofit. A lot of people, yeah. I see people get questioned a lot for nonprofit. Like, you waste your time.
I mean, like before,
You're not
I
gonna
really
pay.
thought I loved baking and cooking. So I went to culinary school, and after working 7 years, I was like, okay, I no longer like it because now I just worked for it, and it just didn't feel like I had fun with it anymore. It became a job. So I found that was more like a hobby for me that I just like doing on my own, not as a career. So I was like, okay, no more. And now Albert throws it in my face. You never even cook anymore. You used to cook so much. And I'm like, oh, I know. I'm like,
I remember we
kids
were
and
like,
everything.
Beto, you should start a bakery.
Yes.
Yeah, we were telling
And
you.
I haven't done it forever. But I mean, it was stuff that I loved to do before, but just on the side because I loved the reaction that I would get from people that they were so happy with their cake. They, liked the flavor and everything. And I did it so much that I was like, okay, I'm over it,
Yeah.
And that sucks. But hopefully soon I'll get back to it again.
Yeah, but
Did you guys, I think we all highlighted that quote on 166.
Oh, I didn't.
Your feelers?
So, yes,
Yes.
your failures don't define you, she continued. Your worth isn't about what you do or don't do. You have value simply because you're here. So that's what Lorraine told her.
Like, give yourself credit. You're here, you have survived a lot of other stuff.
Well, you know what I tell parents, and it's really irritating, is when you tell a child, you're being a bad girl, you're being a bad boy, right? It's the worst thing you can do to your children. Saying you're doing something really bad. What you're doing is bad. That's giving the negativity to the action. When you tell the child you are bad, that's what you're doing. You're doing exactly what this
person,
is.
you're putting them down.
Yeah, you're telling them that they are their mistakes.
They're not good enough.
Yeah. And like when I'm telling him something and he's like, you're saying I'm bad. I'm like, I never said that. I said what you're doing is bad. You're not bad. You're perfect,
I've never put it that way. And I've heard sometimes, just recently, Matthew's like, Mom, like we told Miranda something. He goes, I'm not a bad boy, huh? Miranda is. And we're just like, yeah. But we don't catch it. It's just like, yeah, she's the one that did something bad.
So
Not a
that
bad boy.
right there, that's the words, right?
So now
she
he's
did
even
something
labeling
bad.
it.
Yeah, and so now she goes through life thinking, I'm bad. And every time you do something bad, that's your worth. You are bad. And it's like, no, you are not. Your actions. So quick note, guys. You guys still have toddlers.
Yes.
Yeah, parent.
You guys still have
Parenting over here.
toddlers, so don't say that they're not bad. They're perfect.
So I'm going to finish off with chapter 13, just because this one's a good one too. At the end, at the bottom of page 166, it says, where is it at? Through our gut instincts, through our lives try to get our attention in countless ways. Through our gut instincts, through our loved ones, through our circumstances, and in my case, through an angel God once sent to me at exactly the right juncture. Lorraine showed up in my life when I urgently needed a friend to help me see the truth. She did that. And it was all that she could do because I'd reached that place we all get to where no amount of compassion or love or hand-holding from someone else can change things. It was on me, as I'd done on the rooftop. I had to close my eyes and make a choice that I wanted better for myself.
This one's
So
good.
in the end, you need to want it for yourself.
Yeah, and it goes back to, I underlined a section where she started therapy, and she says how, I expected Ryan to be my knight in shining armor. I wanted him to fix all of this.
Yeah.
And it's like, how often do we try to fix people?
Yeah.
And I've told people, like, if you really love and care for someone, you have to accept them for who they are. And that might not be that great. And yeah, change can happen, but like she said, it was up to her.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that can change ourselves. But I love everything she said about Lorraine because I've had my patients say this about me. All
explained you in
all
here.
my older ladies, they're always like, oh, Dios me mandó un angelito en usted. Me siento muy bien. I'm like, God, thank you.
And that's like, I'm doing my job.
And then one section, she was like, Lorraine really cares. And I had one patient, a teenager. She's like, well, you get paid to care. But it's true. A lot of people feel that way. They're like, well, they're paying you. This is your job, you know? And I said, well, in reality, I chose this job for a reason. And the reason is because I actually genuinely care. I could have picked any
Whether I
other
get paid
career.
or not, yeah.
I'm like, I could have picked any other career. And I was like, oh, she understood that Lorraine cared. We care. Therapists care, guys.
Yeah.
That's why we do what we do.
So in chapter 14, we start reading that she starts getting into classes for acting. She realizes that, you know, going into paralegal or stuff like that isn't, a receptionist for a law firm isn't for her. It was boring. It was dreading. The hours were long. And, you know, everybody just kept encouraging her, her friend, Brian, and more so the therapist. So she started acting classes, and how that really was amazing to hear that it's like, okay, she finally started doing what she loved, and it wasn't even hard to wake up early. She was excited to wake up early and start changing all those bad habits into positive ones. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So I really love seeing that just starting what you love to do brought out everything, all the positive stuff. And the negative stuff just easily came out on its own.
And she says how, finally fulfilling her passion didn't just, what is it? It didn't just help her, it healed her.
Did anybody like look her up on the videos that she mentions she was
I
in?
wanted to. I was like, I'm going to do that. Because I was like, I want to see all these movies.
Yeah, she said she was in a music video called Faces with a Boston R&B singer.
I wanted to look that one up for sure.
And then a film, The Zookeeper 2. It's a romantic comedy. So she was in a couple of ones. She was, you know.
But she was extras in them.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think, how do we all feel about finding our own passion?
It hits you out of nowhere that you're just like, what am I doing? What am I supposed to be doing? Is this good enough? And I mean,
it's so important.
it is very important. It's almost like you don't feel right. You know, you're just like, I need to be doing what I'm here to do. You know, no matter what you do, it just doesn't feel right. And finding your passion, it's so important, but it's so hard.
Well, I remember when you were like working, and you're like, I miss patient care.
Yeah, that is so
And then you
true.
finally went back to school, and now you're working on your nursing.
Right. I mean, exactly. I've been in the medical field for 10 years, and I have been doing admin work. But I have been working in different hospitals, and I think the main reason I've been in patient care for 10 years is because of the patients giving back. So now I'm in a position where I no longer have that patient care. So that's exactly why I decided to pursue an actual fulfilling career where I work around patients, and that's why I'm pursuing nursing.
I mean, it's still good though, because she climbed the ladder so high so fast, and still was like, okay, this is not fulfilling me. And you know, now you found the passion, which is awesome.
So one day.
Yeah,
When she
it's
says
getting there.
on 179, when you're feeling free, when you have a handle on who you are, you're more able to go in there and try new things. I hadn't yet grown into that place. The fear of failure stopped me from letting down my hair. And when I looked back at the films now, I can see that the performance reflected that. And that's the thing, like when you're working really hard, but you're still really afraid to just be, you don't give it your all, right?
Yeah.
So then through the acting and taking all these classes, they keep confronting her about facing her fears, right? And when she gets to New York and she starts working with that older lady that couldn't even pronounce her name, remember? She was like, right?
That heavy accent.
Yeah. And, you know, she says how even though she's now doing what she likes, she's still not calling her parents enough.
Well, actually on 179, I highlighted something. She says, it was still difficult for me to even be on the phone with Papi, but I wasn't making progress. And the more we did talk, the better we both felt. Funny how confronting your fears will do that for you. Go figure. As for mommy, I really didn't connect with her at all during this time or know how things were going in Spain.
And she's in Spain, huh?
So her mom's in Spain now. And
she visited them when they were in Colombia, but she didn't visit her in Spain at first,
Madrid, right?
In Madrid, yeah, that's where her mom's at. So she's been, I feel like, avoiding more her mom because she resents her in some type of way, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then she finally goes, right?
So she goes in the next chapter.
Chapter 15.
Yeah, so pretty much chapter 14 was short. She wraps it up where she lets go of Brian. She finally breaks up with him. And
she moves to New York.
And she moves to New York, yeah. So that goes. Then we go into chapter 15.
Ooh, a real quick one on chapter 15 where the front page always has that little quote.
Uh-huh.
It's not true that people stop pursuing dreams because they grow old. They grow old because they stop pursuing dreams. Gabriel Gabito Garcia Marquez.
That's so true.
It is, yeah. I've heard so many people all the time tell me, like, I can't go to school anymore. I'm already older. I can't change career paths because I'm already getting older.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
It's never too late to go back.
Yeah, I mean, then you just don't want to be happy.
It's funny because I get people that are like, well, I'm so old. And I go, how old are you? And they go, 50. And I go, what? And they're like, yeah, I'm old. And I go, how old did your parents die really young? And they're like, no, my mom made it to 90. And I'm like, so you got 40 years left on this earth, yet you've already decided you're old. Mm-hmm. How are you going to live the next 40 if you
already want to stop there?
Yeah.
You got 40 years.
But it's crazy, right? Because you hear 50-year-olds that are like, I'm so old. Well, you have 40 years. Even if you're 60, you have 20 to 30. Like, yeah. I'm like, that's a lot of years. And if school takes 4 years, 5 years, then that means you have 15 to do something different.
Yeah.
You know, like, how do you want to live your last 15, your last 20, your last 40?
So in chapter 15, she talks about how she's more independent, she's got her own place, and then she talks about all these weird gigs that she gets, like the smelly foot where she sells like...
That one's hilarious.
Or she actually did that for side money, and she's selling her shoes.
Did you guys ever... Did you guys watch Orange is the New Black?
No, I haven't.
I watched like the first 2
seasons.
Or one season, and then the second season was...
So it's funny because in this, she's selling her shoes, right? And then they sell them all over New Zealand for a foot fetish. And on Orange is the New Black, and one of the episodes, or like a section, the women start selling their underwear.
Oh, wow.
My God.
That's what it made me think of. I'm like, oh my God, I remember when they were all...
Oh my God, how funny.
So, and it was the same thing. Like this one, the guy's like... The smellier the shoe, the better. Right?
Yeah, that is crazy.
And then in Orange is the New Black, same thing. The girls would wear their underwear and they'd do laps.
Gross.
And then they couldn't wash them or anything. They had to put them in a bag and then they sold them. Yeah. I'm like, so she went from shoes
I think
to
sometime
panties.
this week, I can't remember when, but I saw on social media that they posted it was Erykah Badu's birthday. Mm-hmm. And for her, I think 49th birthday, she came out with an incense stick, the ones that you light up. The smell was woman parts.
What?
And the incense is called Badusi.
Oh my God.
It's like Erykah Badu and then pussy.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, Badusi is booty, ass, and pussy.
Right, but she said like,
yeah,
that's her last name part of it in there. But interesting that people are into that kind of stuff, that kind of smell.
So then she goes to Madrid, right?
Yeah, so it had been 7 whole years that she hasn't seen her family. Mm-hmm. And her mom is in Madrid, and her mom reaches out to her and, tells her how she misses her, and she's always cutting it short. And finally, she just, I think page 191, she says, in late 2012, I found myself at a crossroad. I knew that in order to get on with this next chapter in my life, to continue growing as an actor and as a woman, I needed to connect with the woman who gave me life. I had this huge aspiration to be a successful actor and many times I find myself wishing I had my mother there with me just to share things with her. I miss Papi too, of course, but I've always had a more complicated relationship with my mother. So, you know, she says she resents her mom. And she finally goes to see her because she knew she had
That's awesome that she realized that,
this,
you know,
right?
she needed it for herself
Well, that's the
to continue to grow.
Our relationships with our mothers are very important. Well, you guys know how close I'm with mine.
Yeah.
And I fight with her all the time, and I can't stand her. But I love her.
Yeah, so she spends days with her. Yes, the mom got a nose job, and she sees that her mom is so independent, got her own place, she's driving, and so she gets like a feel of her mom. But to her, it's like her mom. Yeah, who are you? Like her mom leveled up and is so independent. So she kind of was like, "Whoa, who's this?" But on 194, I highlighted. I think about it now. And that was probably because any recent memories I had of my mother were of her nervous, scared, and in hiding. There was no need to hide here, and no one was giving her any charity. So, you know, she saw that her mom was such a different person
Almost
now.
had her freedom back.
But it's funny because the way she describes her mother, right? That's kind of what has fueled her depression and anxiety. Is that she lives in fear, right?
Exactly.
So she got it from her mama.
Yep,
Well,
but
that's nice seeing that change in her mom brought the change in her as well, like the comfort. It's like, okay, it's okay now.
yeah, she actually goes off on her though, like to a point that they started like, I don't know if you guys highlighted, but that was page 196. So her mom, they start conversating, and she goes, that whole time was so horrible for me, she said. The prison was dirty. I couldn't communicate with your father. I couldn't eat or sleep. As she spoke, my blood pressure rose. I sat up and cut her off. You know what, Mommy? I shouted. I don't want to hear another thing about how hard things were for you. Mommy, caught off guard by my anger, stood. What are you talking about, Diane? You don't even know how hard things were for me, I shouted. It's always about you, isn't it? You. Tears came pouring out. You abandoned me.
Oh, man.
And I think because when she would call Colombia, she used to say that, right? That her mom would just complain and complain, and it was all about her.
She'll just vent to her.
Yeah.
I mean, she was so young to continue to hear all the bad stuff.
And then she goes to visit her, and she does it again.
Yeah, you know,
but she
blames
released
her.
a lot. I mean, she says, you destroyed our family. I screamed, I hate you. Mommy widened her eyes, and all at once she too began to cry. So they finally let it all out.
Yeah.
And that's probably like so painful as a mother, but for healing, it's what needed to happen.
That's awesome. I mean, sad, but awesome because after the...
Yeah, on 197, she says, these weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release, of freedom, of healing, of recognition. So, I was like, good for you.
Everybody was
She
hurt
needed
here,
it.
yeah.
Well, guys,
man. Let's continue.
I don't know. I've blown up on my mother plenty of times. So.
True.
We all have.
But she's good. She can handle it.
But after the storm is a pretty rainbow. Yeah. So let's look forward to that rainbow. So continue to read, ladies.
Yes.
It's getting good. We're almost at the end, and we will be discussing our brunch, so we can discuss the whole book.
Yes,
Yeah.
brunch. I'm so excited for brunch. And the book is good, so.
It is.
All right. Keep following on Instagram. Keep reading. Keep posting.
Yes.
Tag us. DM
Like.
us.
Yes.
Like, share.
All right. Talk to
Bye,
you guys soon.
guys.
Bye.